Ready to create an amazing story?
Choose a book from one of these real-life writing heroes
to make a new story just like theirs.
The Bronte sisters were creative people who loved to pretend.
Charlotte, Emily, and Anne wrote lots of great stories.
Hey, let's create a story about us pretending. One rainy day, Yadina pretended to be... One rainy day, Yadina pretended to be an astronaut, and Xavier pretended to be... And Xavier pretended to be a pirate. Yadina and Xavier pretended they were inside. Yadina and Xavier pretended they were inside a castle, when suddenly they pretended the floor turned into... When suddenly they pretended the floor turned into pudding. So then, Brad pretended to rescue his friends as... Dun-da-da-dun! So then, Brad pretended to rescue his friends as... Dun-da-da-dun! Bike Man! Xavier and Yadina were proud to have such a brave friend as they climbed aboard Brad's rescue. Xavier and Yadina were proud to have such a brave friend as they climbed aboard Brad's rescue dinosaur.
Thanks for telling such a surprising story about us.
And pretending some amazing things.
Just like the Bronte sisters. Charles Dickens used his imagination to write great stories.
Stories that lots of people still love today.
Ooh, let's create a story about Brad's imagination. One day, Brad was laying down on his bed. When suddenly, Brad imagined it was a whale. And Brad imagined he was in the ocean. Then Brad imagined he saw worms. And Brad imagined he was holding a lollipop. So Brad imagined he was relaxing in the butterfly conservatory.
Thanks for telling such a silly story about my imagination.
Using your imagination makes everything more fun.
Just like Charles Dickens. Mary Shelley used her imagination to write stories that were totally different from everybody else's.
Some of her stories were spooky.
Ooh, let's create a story about Xavier. Your way. Xavier was walking in the woods when suddenly something happened that was very surprising. He came face to face with a book monster. At first, Xavier tried to hide. But then Xavier decided to be brave. Xavier stood bravely, holding a wand. To Xavier's surprise, the book monster said, "Let's boogie."
Thanks for making an amazing story about me.
Your own way.
Just like Mary Shelley.
Zora Neale Hurston wrote all kinds of stories.
And she shared them with people all around the world.
Hey, let's create a sharing story about Brad. Brad was writing his new comic book alone in the art room. When suddenly Brad saw a lonely octopus. So, Brad decided to share his comic book about Bike Man. Reading Brad's comic book together made it so happy. So then they decided to eat ice cream.
Thanks for telling an awesome sharing story about me.
Stories are best when you share them with others.
Just like Zora Neale Hurston.
Nellie Bly wrote about some big, and sometimes scary, adventures she went on.
Nellie was bold. That means she was brave and willing to try new things.
Hey, let's create a story about Yadina being bold. At the playground, Yadina was too scared to try the monkey bars, so she went on the duck. When suddenly, Dr. Zoom was carried away by a gust of wind. Yadina had to be bold and chase after Dr. Zoom using her bicycle. Then Dr. Zoom landed on top of a pyramid. To save Dr. Zoom, Yadina had to be bold and climb up the ladder. To celebrate rescuing Dr. Zoom, she gave her best turtle friend a big kiss.
Thanks for telling such a cool story about me being bold.
When you really want to do something, be bold.
Just like Nellie Bly.